of course, being a Centaur has way more value because it proves that you have a PMF, scalable GTM strategy, and a large customer base, because that is $100 million worth of customers' money that hits your bank account as compared to capital from VCs or PEs. So definitely Centaurs is the way to go forward. And we at Lina AI are also focusing on that $100 million ARR magic number.
Revenue matters in all businesses. Ultimately, revenue matters, and the ones that can deliver the revenue are the ones that will do well and that will survive.
Build companies and scale them further. So I think there's probably extremely positive about the opportunity for all of us here.
We have been very, very clear on one specific aspect from day one. We are very clear that the business that we are doing is to make money, to bring value to all our stakeholders, whether it's investors, employees, customers, all of them. Valuation is a side effect of that activity. If we build good business, deriving good value for all the stakeholders, valuation will follow naturally.
For me, it's very straightforward, right? And I think the last 6 months, 12 months of Bloodbath has shown that, valuation multiples, they can go all over the place. And, people say public markets are a weighing machine in the long term. But in the short term, it's a bloodbath, right? Companies are trading at 3x revenues and 7x revenues. It's crazy. And these are companies that are growing 20% year on year, 15% year on year. It doesn't make much sense, right? For us, it's always about saying no to vanity SaaS. And valuation is vanity, right? Today, it could be something. Tomorrow, it could be something else.
I think everything goes hand in hand, right? I think either one should not exist in isolation, right? If you're 100 million ARR, of course, there's a billion plus valuation. So if you look from employee perspective, when they're joining the journey early, they need good upsides in the ESOPs and whatever they've been allocated. So valuation definitely helps there because they can see good upside there. But for a company, I think the revenue also makes, it's one of the important criteria because that builds your base becomes larger and you can reinvest those. But I think as an overall, I think tracking growth along with efficiency, I think that's most important.
So I wouldn't say better words. I do think though, companies that are larger than 100 million behave differently, execute differently. It's a different focus. Management have to think about different things than in the 0 to 1, 1 to 10, and 10 to 100. So it's a reasonable classification, but I wouldn't say one versus the other. It's just another segmentation. But I think the segmentation is necessary because it is a different phase in a company's evolution.
I think it has lost a lot of value, but it doesn't really mean much that you are a unicorn or not, right? Versus back in the day when unicorn term was defined, it was a big achievement. So now, unicorn doesn't really matter much. So people start looking at other key metrics and milestones that defines the strength of a business. And in SaaS, we all know that's $100 million in ARR, right? If you can get to $100 million in ARR, that is the proof point of a very strong SaaS business, of course, with other key business metrics like gross margins and gross retentions and net retention and others. But that tells you that this business is a strong SaaS business. So I'm on the side of, focusing more on $100 million ARR as a metric versus, I would say, the unicorn.
I think all founders will agree that valuations come secondary to your mind, right? So although that you always dream of becoming a very large company, and till now, unicorn has been all the craze. I think the first thing comes by actually driving value to your merchants, right? And I think Centaurs or $100 million in revenue becomes a better metric to measure companies, because then, if you can drive a company to $100 million revenue, that is, you are actually adding tremendous value to the ecosystem.
My thought process about building businesses build more on revenue purely than a valuation metric, because valuation is an output metric and not controllable in your hand, and especially we are seeing the markets already give us that picture in a brutal way. So point is, how do you effectively sustain scale, build a business? So I think Centaur is a very good metric.